Morning, Stuart. Morning, bro. Morning, Kirsty. Morning, Linda. Morning, Dave. Morning, Thomas. Morning, Fiona. Morning, Tina. Morning, Maggie. Morning, Jim, Dunk, John the Legend, the van driver. Fiona, Rosemary, John again. Morning, Ali. Jen, sorry. Morning, Gillian. Morning, Gordon. Morning, Maggie. Paul, Harry, Avro, Neil, Alex, Lorna. How are we doing? Morning, Andy. Morning, Mr. Leckenby. How are we today? Nice to see you in the audience. Nice we got. Hi, Brian. Hi, Geordie. Hi, Robert. Hi, Jane. Stella. Lenny. Last Braveheart. Hammy. Arthur. Ellie. Mary. Right, that's enough of you on board, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's in the truck. Davey out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is -2 degrees and snowing lightly. That's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather forecast is like where you are? Look out your own bloody windy. Okay, let's get this news review underway. This is a news review from the Colony of Scotland from the 7th to the 12th, 2022. Wednesday started with two themes in the rags. Stephen Flynn, US MP leader, in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, and Lady Moan of the Bra takes leave of absence from House of Lords to clear her name, apparently. Right, on Flynn taking over as Westminster leader, Ian Blackford stood down to take up a more prominent role in the Indie campaign, trying to woo businesses to their way of thinking. Now, a leadership contest was run between Mr. Flynn and Alison Thulis. Mr. Flynn was elected leader on 26 votes to 17, with one abstention. Mr. Flynn appointed Mary Black as his deputy. Mr. Flynn took part in his first Prime Minister's questions later on Wednesday, but we'll get more of that later in the report. Okay. Now, Mr. Flynn's election as leader, as the right-wing rags speculate that the First Minister's authority is under threat. Everyone in their dog laughed at that one. You know, a poll later in the day once again has Miss Sturgeon as the most popular leader in Scotland and UK-wide, according to Scottish people, by a country mile. All right, as to Lady Moan, taking a leave of absence to clear her name. Well, things got a wee bit worse for Lady Moan later in the day, because by Prime Minister's questions, Lady Moan is stripped of the Tory party whip, and thrown under a bus and all alone. But I don't feel sorry for Lady Moan. After all, she threw the country under a bus to get an ermine robe in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers of the Chamber. Right, so moving on, Wednesday, and down that road, the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee is sitting. The Environment Minister, the vile excuse for a human being, Teresa Coffey, is being quizzed on whether the government would intervene to help provide emergency food packages for food banks as the cost of living crisis bites and donations dry up to food banks. Now, the vile Coffey tells the committee it's not the government's job to help food banks. The vile one doubles down in her position, saying the government isn't going to provide free food. It's not the role of government to provide free food. Oof. It would appear the Minister for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs doesn't understand the government's primary duty, or the role of her department in that primary duty of government. Wow. The primary duty of government is to protect the people. That includes food security. And it's the vile one Coffey's department's job to ensure there's enough food at affordable prices for the people of these islands. Now, to say it's DEFRA's primary a duty to ensure food security. That's Theresa Coffey's department. She sat in front of the Rural Affairs Committee and Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Committee to tell them it's not the government's job to protect food security and ensure that people are fed. Wrong! Wrong-headed in every way. That's the real reason DEFRA exists. It's there to ensure that the UK produces enough, or if it doesn't produce enough, to ensure that the supply chains are there, to ensure that enough flows in to feed everybody. That's the whole reason for DEFRA being there in the first place. Everything else DEFRA does is actually linked to that, like making sure there's plenty of water for irrigation and it's clean. Making sure food standards are top quality for public health. But it's all linked to the one thing, and that's ensuring there's enough food for everybody to eat at affordable prices. And if there isn't enough food for people to eat at affordable prices, then it is DEFRA's job to ensure that everybody eats. But as we already know, the attitude to feeding people down that road, after all, they won't feed hungry school children. If you won't feed hungry children, then that's your future gone. Because these children are going to grow up weak and sickly, and you ain't going to have them as wage slaves in the economy. Wow. Anyway, as she's speaking at the committee, it's announced that food price inflation hits 12.4% for the year to November, according to the British Retail Consortium. The ONS says it's 14%. That was a wee bit of discrepancy there, but British Retail Consortium says 12.4%. All right. And at the same time, the Trussell Trust also reveals data telling us that through their network from April to September, 1.3 million emergency food packages were dispatched or given out, up from 1.2 million from January to the end of April. And 100,000 people in trouble and going to food banks from the end of April to September than what it was for the beginning of January to the end of April. Oof, not good. And the Food Network, Food Agent Network, which represents independent food banks, said 91% of its members had seen increased demand since July 2022, beginning of the interest rate hikes properly. And 4 out of 5 of their members have seen donations drop since the summer. Food donations to food banks are drying up, folks. This is when you really do need the government to step in. That's what DEFRA is for. Oh, unbelievable vile creature is that Coffey. Don't know where to go with that. Really. That's the facts. The facts are people are gone hungry. And the government's no wanting to do anything about it. Right, moving on Wednesday. Here in Scotland, the Pravda are trying to convince us that Scotland has stopped being a world leader on climate change because the Committee on Climate Change says that things have stalled. Mayor Pish and Wind and anti-Scottish SNP Green government has been fired at this time, actually. Yeah, it's just SNP Green, bad Pish. Right. Scotland has halved its emissions and met its 2020 target, so 50% of emissions down 50%. Scotland's domestic power now comes mainly from renewables, solar, hydro, and on and offshore wind. We produce so much electricity, we export huge amounts to the rest of the UK, 3.5 gigawatt hours to England and 1.5 gigawatt hours to Northern Ireland. All right. Now, the SNP government have planted thousands upon thousands of hectares of forest and has ambitious plans to rewild 30% of Scotland, of the country of Scotland, and that includes restoring peat bogs and things like that. These forests soak up huge amounts of carbon, and the peat bogs hold huge amounts of carbon as well. Okay, now we are being held back a wee bit with energy policy being reserved. It's slowing us down in areas, and that's according to Scotland's net zero minister, Michael Matheson, and he's right. For example, one of the ways Westminster's holding us back is a levy on green energy. The windfall tax on green energy. Reports say that it's the investments are up by 10% because of it. Right, right, moving on Wednesday and back to so this idea that we'll stop being a world leader is pish. Absolute pish. Rates stopped. It's not stopped, it's slowed. But I mean, things like the rewilding and things like that still go on. New offshore wind farm to open off the coast of Angus just today, huge amounts of money poured into NIG to construct the bodies for these turbines. Hasn't stopped at all. Maybe pace is slowed because of the windfall tax, but it's not stopped. Right, moving on Wednesday and back down that road. The city believe the Bank of England will raise interest rates by 0.5%, taking them to 3.5% next week when the Monetary Policy Committee meets. All right. Now, that's going to heap absolute misery on mortgage payers just before Christmas. The markets are 78% sure it will be a 0.5% rise. 22% of the markets are betting on a 0.75% rise. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee are split on the need for further rises, with concerns that will lengthen and deepen the recession. Now, the madness at the Bank of England goes on. No, they're actually speeding up the depth of the recession, and this is going to be a depression, no recession. They're actually taking money out of people's pockets at a time when we need to put money into people's pockets in order to sustain the economy. We have a market economy. How many times do I have to talk about wee Mrs. McGlumfer not having any money to spend in the shops? So the shop bloody shuts. The plant that was making gear for the shop to sell shuts. The Bank of England is one of the drivers in the economic decline of the United Kingdom. Mental. Okay, moving on Wednesday and down that road in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers and yon Imperial Dump, PMQs is on. First up is Starmer. Well, you always get some Muppet throws away a question and then Starmer's introduced. Alright, so first up is Starmer. He went on housing, and that's why the housing, the mandatory targets for housing in England were scrapped. And Sunak says nothing. He waffled about planning and protecting his voter base in the home counties because they don't want estates built there. No, we can't have Jacob Rees-Mogg's land taken and have huge estates built on it. Could be. No, that couldn't happen. So Sunak avoids the question. Starmer then goes on moan. And Sunak said he was shocked when he read about it. The whole place fell about laughing. It's a bit of Punch and Judy show. It's Prime Minister's questions my bahookie. And Sunak is Bojo Mark II. Really is. Anyway, we're back on housing. And Starmer says to him, the reason why you did it was because, the reason why you scrapped mandatory targets is because of a rebellion in your party. You're Mr. Jelly Prime Minister, Mr. Ballons, wobbly. Right. So Sunak comes back with Labour's record at building housing. London, 60,000 only. Wales, only building 6,000. Never mentioned Scotland, of course. Couldn't he mention Scotland? Couldn't he be building houses as if it's going to a bloody fashion? You know, the Scottish government's got is undertaking a massive programme of house building. Anyway, after that we got on to industrial action and militant unions apparently. And Sunak's going to clamp down on the unions. We'll get a wee bit more of that as we get further into the report and all. Okay. Anyway, they flip-flop back and forth between strikes and then they moved on to shortages of strep. Now, strep seems to be running a savvy at the moment. And Starmer's concerned and he asks about and Sunak gets up his feet, denies that there's a shortage of antibiotics, even though it's flattered over and uses a shortage of antibiotics to deal with this strep outbreak, and he make it worse. Scarlet fever's kicking around and all in the schools now. So lots of antibiotics needed, and a lot of them are made in Europe. Yeah, here comes that drug shortage we've all been talking about. Shouldn't laugh at that. But all the Brexit bollocks is coming home to roost, and that includes shortages of medicines. Right, next up was Stephen Flynn. He thanked Ian Blackford for 5 years' services to the group as leader in Westminster. He tells the Commons Ian's a giant of the indie movement, seeing off 3 prime ministers, and was on to his 4th. Mr. Flynn asked Sunak what he's seen as his party's greatest achievement in the last couple of years, leaving the single market, ending freedom of movement, denying Scottish democracy, or getting the Labour Party to agree with all of the above. I like to cut his jib the minute he got to his feet. Pretty serious looking young fella, and quite witty to boot. So anyway, Sunak gets up and gives him the usual bollocks. No, it wasn't. It was killing 215,000 during the pandemic. It was killing them with furlough. And the bollocks about the fastest vaccine roll in the world, you know. All the usual crap. Hey. Anyway, Mr. Flynn then slapped Sunak with the latest polling figures on Scottish independence and asked if increasing energy costs in energy-rich Scotland by 500 quid next year would make those polling figures go up or down. Really quite into it, in the face of him. Anyway, Sunak gets to his feet and says, we're delivering 55 billion worth of aid to help families with their electricity bills, other energy bills. That translates to 900 quid per household, he says. You know, and then he says that's a fine example of the union working for Scotland. What he should have, what he actually meant was that was a fine example of Scotland working for the union, because all the money that they're paying out is coming straight out of Scotland's resources. Wow. But there you go. No, I don't know why Pete Wishart resigned, but I'll look into it for you. Right, moving on. Wednesday, new poll out by Ipsos Mori on attitudes to independence here in Scotland is out. In that poll, there was also Westminster voting intentions. So, according to the latest Ipsos Mori poll, when don't knows are removed, then it's 56% yes, 44% no. On Westminster voting intention, this one put a smile on my face because I've been wondering about how difficult it would be to win a plebiscite election. But after seeing the results of that one, 53% to vote for the SNP, 20% for Labour, 13% for the Tories, and the rest between the rest. The Greens are on 2%, Lib Dems are on 8%, if I remember correctly, and others is 2%, so the Alpha Party will be in the others somewhere, under 2% of that. Vote share. All right. Now, the poll also shows, say, 53% of people in Scotland intend voting SNP. That's enough to get us over the line in a plebiscite election. Marvellous stuff. And with the crap coming down the line, that's only going to get higher. Brilliant. Anyway, the poll also showed that all regions in Scotland would now vote yes. Up until that poll, the borders in the North East would have voted no. But now they all would vote yes. It's a monumental poll, that one. Right. It also shows that all age groups up to 64 were a majority for yes as well, which is really quite good. So they know it's coming, we know it's coming. But there's a Davy says here, somebody got on the dog and bone to Alistair Jack and tell him what fun is duck. Okay, moving on Wednesday, over in Northern Ireland, attempts to get the Stormont up and running again fails as expected. The DUP still won't play. So the people of Northern Ireland suffer as the cost of living aid isn't being distributed, as there isn't any minister sitting to distribute that aid. So, real problems in the province. People are suffering. And the DUP is going to take a hit. Right, okay, moving on Wednesday, back down that road. One Labour MP suspended and one Tory MP suspended. Details of why both parties have suspended their members have yet to be released. But probably more bullying, more sexual misconduct along the lines, or maybe racism or anti-Semitism or whatever, you know. Right, moving on Wednesday. Back here in Scotland, the Health Secretary Yusuf says he has sleepless nights over the NHS. I'm not surprised. I really ain't surprised. He's doing a good job. He's getting the services up and running, but we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. There's a huge backlog to get ready. He's getting it in the neck left, right, and centre. When actually, nobody can actually see what a great job the guy's been doing and getting services up and running in the first place. And the figures are improving. So he's doing a great job, but with strikes coming, backlog, pressure for the continued pandemic, pressure for winter respiratory diseases coming in, pressure with strep running the savvy in the schools apparently. So whom does not get his troubles to seek? I'm not surprised the guy's awake at night, you know. Right, moving on Wednesday, down that road, Transport Secretary Mark Harper scraps plans for Great British Railway Authority. And Education Secretary Gillian Keegan threw plans to improve schooling in England under a bus. It's believed both initiatives were scrapped due to budget cuts coming to each department. As you know, they'll get huge savings they need to make in the public services. Apparently in the public sector, there's going to be huge slashes in public sector budgets. So the initiative to create Great British Railways Authority to run timetables, franchising, Network Rail, all in one body have been scrapped. And the initiatives to get kids back up to speed and improve education down that road as we get through the pandemic, because let's face it, it's nowhere. They've also been scrapped. So don't feed kids, can't learn anyway. Inadequate education and unfit, unhealthy humans coming through. No good for the labour market, no good for the future of the economy. So short-sighted down that road, so they are. Whereas up here, we're feeding kids in school. Curriculum for excellence is going well. Whether people try to tell us it's no. And we're trying to improve the health and well-being of our people with initiatives like the baby box, lower council tax, free transport to get kids around about between 12 and 23, so on and so forth. Initiatives in the NHS to try and make the population much more healthy. So, total different attitude down that road. Down that road, it's let the plebs suffer. Up here, it's mitigation and try to build a well-being society. Are you yes yet? Right. Also Wednesday, Supreme Court rules that protest buffer zones can be set up in Northern Ireland around abortion services. Now, remember, abortion services are new in Northern Ireland, and it appears that they're getting much more stick than what they are here. But the same sort of protests are going on here, pro-life protests are going on here in Scotland. Now, I don't know what side of the fence you're on, I don't care. For me, it's a woman's body, her right to choose. I'll put my cards on the table on that one. And the services should be there for whatever decision the woman makes. Protest. I have no problem with protesting against it. Buffer zones, meaning that they're not going to get in the face of people who need medical services. Then, fair enough. I don't like the limiting of freedom of speech. But at the same time, these are medical facilities. And people go there for different reasons. Okay. So where was that? Aye, that was the Supreme Court ruling. Also Wednesday, Sunak to consider making it against the law for healthcare workers and NHS staff to strike. There you are. Not great. Hey! And of course, they're bringing through new legislation to make strike action harder to take. Now you're moving on Wednesday, and the cold snap and snow hits the northeast, and temperatures drop. Okay, the winter has arrived, folks, so this is a public service announcement. This one. Keep an eye on your elderly neighbours, especially those in older properties which might not be well insulated, where people can't afford to put their heating on. And the other part of this public service announcement is, take it from me, folks, the roads don't kill. When you're out on the road, drive to the conditions. Make sure your car's prepared for this sort of weather. Slow down, keep your lights on all the time, make yourself as visible as possible, and drive to the conditions. I've done millions of miles, made it in my journey every time. A wee bit of sensible, defensive driving. Better to be late than dead. Simple as that. Right, that's the public service announcement over with. Let's see what Scotland's papers have got this morning, shall we? Scotland's paper, strike hits Christmas flights and Brexit drug block. Oh dear. I've been worried about this stuff for years, and it never happened. Everybody was ripping the piss. But the can stopped getting kicked down the road last year. Brexit's coming in increments. Okay, so here we go. The Times has Christmas flights hit by airport walkouts. Border staff to go and strike over Christmas. The loony rag, the Daily Mail has strike threats to Christmas getaway. Well, that's the best way to put it. Pressure on the government. Piss the people off, and the people have turned on the government. Right, what we got? The Tory graph has army fury as soldiers ordered to give up Christmas over strikes. Dearie. So it looks like border guards are going to be replaced by soldiers. Nurses are going to be replaced by soldiers. Better hope nobody decides to launch an invasion. There'll be any soldiers to take them on. No, there is any anyway. 82,000 regulars. Make you laugh, man. And apparently the BBC could end terrestrial television and radio in 7 years. The Scotsman has more teacher strikes without significantly better pay offer. Any money in the public purse. It's a fixed budget here in Scotland. The Daily Lancet has a Brexit blunder drug. Scottish Alzheimer's sufferers face being denied new wonder treatments, and patients warn Euroexit could hold up approval of new drugs for several years. The Herald has fast-track moves planned on abortion clinic buffers. The court ruling was only yesterday. Nobody's got any fast-track plans to do anything at this point in time. And the Scottish Parliament's about getting into Christmas recess, Christ. The National has 56%. It's still surging. Support for independence up to 56 in new poll. And then it's got Flynn makes PMQs debut as SNP Westminster leader by confronting Sunak over growing backing for yes. The Metro has Poll shows indie boost after court snub. So they're blaming the increased support for independence on the fact that they have legally locked us in. The Scottish Daily Express has stopped this betrayal of our beloved Queen. So there you are. Apparently Harry's betraying his late grandmother. Wonder if his late grandmother seen it that way. Yeah, he has. Hancock forced out after local Tories revolt against their absentee MP. So apparently Hancock's been deselected, although he said he's no running. Right, let's see what the Star's got for us today, if it is there. Aye, the Star. The Star runs with world's most festive baby names revealed. All I want for Christmas is an eggnog. 37 people named after festive drink. 2,827 named sprout. And 27,550 named turkey. Ah, the Star. What a breath of fresh air. When you need a pish, poor front page, the Star can make you smile. Right, folks, that's what I've got for you today. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you found it informative. Yesterday was a day to give us all a wee bounce for that poll, especially the amount of detail it went into. It was a mega poll, as they call it. Anyway, but there's only one poll that counts, and that's a couple of years away by the looks of it, although yet to be decided. Because if that's the Westminster voting intention, you can bet your boots the Holyrood voting intention is probably 60-70% of the population. Because the 16s and 17-year-olds get to vote, and so do foreign nationals with settled status. So, eyes on the prize. The pressure mounts. And as I say, somebody phone Alistair Jack and tell him we've fun as duck. Support the independent media. Support Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, Indie Live Radio, Caledon Media, Truth Radio, the Irish Rock Magazine, the National Newspaper. Support independent bloggers and bloggers. And if they have a crowdfund they're going, and you've got a shekel to spare, throw it in the pot. The Gordon McIntyre attempt, and Believe in Scotland's almost reached their target. They're at 81. I think they're trying to raise 90. So if you can help, throw some shekels in the pot. All right, you know we don't want your money. If you like what we do, press the like button on YouTube, press the subscribe button on YouTube, press the bell notification button on YouTube, and you'll get notified when we go live. If you're on Facebook watching this and you're going to share it, give me a couple of minutes after the broadcast to change the settings to public, because as you know, Meta is restricting the range of my videos as they go out live. Now, remember folks, NHS is under pressure. Winter respiratory diseases are here. If you're feeling under the weather, mask up, show some social conscience, and separate yourself out from your friends and your neighbours, protecting each other. Okay, but social distancing. And if you're a health and social care worker and you're still using NHS lateral flow tests, please submit your results, because you live in our community and this virus still has to be tracked. All right, you guys look after yourself, and we'll be back tomorrow to round the week up. Or to round up the day anyway. Or to cover today's news. Let's get that way. You guys have a crack there. There was a lot America that went into yesterday. A lot America went into. It's bloody murder having to chop stories out. I mean, there's some good news stories in the renewables industry, some bad news stories, and some poor bugger having to clean out an outlet for an old nuclear plant, highly dangerous work. There was all sorts of stuff worth talking about yesterday. But I hope you liked what we covered. All right, you guys have a nice day. I'll let you get away so we can watch for some answers questions. Bye for now.